The Bloodline cracks have finally opened up and appear to be beyond repair, so we'll see what's new there. Let's start off with the May 26th edition of SmackDown. It was another big edition of SmackDown that included lots of progression of the Bloodline's cracks. Starting with the Bloodline's backstage segment, Jimmy Uso stands up and Roman Reigns orders him to sit back down. But considering how fed up Jimmy has become with Roman over the last few weeks, Jimmy openly disobeys Roman's order and continues to stand up and show no signs of even thinking about sitting down. After Jimmy continues to disobey Roman's orders multiple times, Roman Reigns starts to stand up to confront Jimmy. And another important detail to pay attention to in this specific moment is Jey Uso. Jey had his head in his hands and is absolutely stressing out about how Jimmy is handling this situation. No one hates Roman's guts more than Jey, but even Jey knows how Jimmy is handling the situation with Roman is not exactly ideal. Jey tried taking the same aggressive approach towards Roman back in 2020, and we all know where that got him. It got him beat up, both mentally and physically, and forced to fall in line and serve Roman. So Jey is in the background just cringing at how Jimmy is handling things with Roman, because he's been here before. He knows what happens to someone who openly disrespects Roman like that. But Roman gets in Jimmy's face and tells him to do something if he wants to be a tough guy and stand up. Roman says that he whooped Jimmy when they were kids, and he'll whoop him again in current day. Roman says that Jimmy will respect, obey, and acknowledge him before kicking Jimmy out of the locker room. Jey gets in the way of the stare down between Roman and Jimmy and walks Jimmy out of the room. Then we get to the main event segment between the Bloodline and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, maybe it was a manipulation or maybe they truly meant it, but Kevin and Sami spent some time telling the Usos that the Bloodline will be nothing without the Usos. Kevin and Sami mention how Jimmy and Jey are the true pillars and backbone of the Bloodline. Kevin even says that if Roman is the head of the table, that Jimmy and Jey are the heart of the table. So absolute high praise from Kevin and Sami on Jimmy and Jey. Now, was that gaslighting to further the cracks in the Bloodline and get into Jimmy and Jey's mind? Or did Kevin and Sami truly mean all that? You can make a good argument for both sides. But regardless of if it was part of the plan or not, it worked. Jimmy gets all heated up and calls himself the Tribal Chief, which makes Roman Reigns come out. Roman gets into the ring and instantly gets in the face of both Jimmy and Jey. Roman stares them both down and snatches the mics out of their hands and throws them away. Sami makes a comment that the Bloodline is falling apart and how it's all Roman's fault. A brawl breaks out that ends with the Bloodline standing tall, but the tension is still there and growing. Jimmy and Jey both pick up pairs of the Undisputed Tag Team titles and hold them in their hands. Roman asks for the titles to be placed in the hands, and Jey instantly hands the pair he was holding over to him. But when Roman asks Jimmy for the pair of titles he was holding, Jimmy hesitates and refuses to hand the titles over to Roman. It's Jey who has to basically rip the titles out of Jimmy's hands and hand them over to Roman. And that closing shot of SmackDown following the #1 storytelling rule of show, don't tell, perfectly. We see Jimmy off to the corner, refusing to take part in throwing up the one and posing with the Bloodline because he's obviously not in a happy mood with Roman. But then over to the left side of the ring, we see Solo and Jey posing with Roman, while Roman holds up all 4 tag team titles. And just Roman holding up all 4 titles tells us so much about where he's at right now as a character as well. He's losing control of the Bloodline, everything is slipping out of his hands, but he refuses to change and continues to get drunk with power. Roman holds all 4 titles up. He doesn't even give Solo Sikoa, his tag team partner, a pair of titles to pose with. Roman just wants all the credit, power, and gold all to himself, that he even discredits and basically disrespects Solo Sikoa in the process. Does Solo Sikoa notice that he's being disrespected by Roman Reigns, or is he too brainwashed right now to notice? That could be a whole other situation for down the line, but it seems like Solo doesn't mind it for the time being. And then we get to the Night of Champions tag team titles match itself. Roman drops a line during the match that reinforces that closing shot of SmackDown that happened the night before. Roman Reigns says that he will become the tag team champions. Not we, not me and Solo. He just says, I will become the tag team champions. Sort of takes you back to the days of Kane and Daniel Bryan, where they both wanted to be individually known as the tag team champions. Well, Roman Reigns was basically saying the same thing here, ignoring Solo's existence and just talking about how he, himself, wanted to become the tag team champions. When things start to look bad for Roman and Solo, plus the ref going down, the Usos come out and try to give Roman and Solo the advantage. But during the ambush attack, the Usos accidentally super kick Solo Sikoa. And again, the Usos just having their recent strain of bad luck. Roman gets up right in the nick of time to see the Usos accidentally kicking Solo Sikoa. So Roman comes in and starts pushing and shoving Jimmy and Jey all over the ring, telling them that once again, no one asked them to come out here and help. Roman turns around from scolding Jey and gets super kicked in the face by Jimmy. Jey is not happy at the sight of what his brother just did, and could already start to imagine the consequences that are coming their way, so he instantly starts to panic. But Jimmy confronts Jey and tells him that he was protecting him, how he'll never let anything bad happen to him, how he's his brother and not Roman. Jimmy even says that he's doing what Jey should have done a long time ago. And that's such a great line by Jimmy because everyone figured that Jey does have the same inner conflict, thinking about how Roman's power went out of control, basically because Jey allowed it to. Jey had the opportunity several years ago to keep fighting back against Roman and neutralize some of that power. But instead of trying to take out Roman, Jey basically only made Roman stronger. So everyone feels like that's a big constant regret that Jey has been living with. Jey felt it at Royal Rumble when Sami Zayn attacked Roman, and he now felt it when Jimmy attacked Roman. Jey feels responsible and feels like he should have been the one to do that to Roman a long time ago, so that Sami and Jimmy never would have been in harm's way and never been put into that situation. Jey can even be seen calling out to Roman Reigns during the closing moments of Night of Champions by calling Roman his real name of Joe. So Jey probably had a different plan and didn't want things to go down like this. But thanks to his brother's actions, Jey no longer has a choice. He has to stand with his twin brother's side. It's interesting that both brothers were trying to protect each other in different ways. Jey was constantly trying to diffuse the tension between Jimmy and Roman as a way to protect his brother. That's why Jey apologized on behalf of both of them. That's why he would walk Jimmy out of the locker room. And that's why he handed over the tag team titles to Roman on the May 26th edition of SmackDown. It was all ways of protecting Jimmy. And on the flip side, Jimmy kicked Roman at Night of Champions in order to protect Jey. So both brothers were protecting each other, but in much different ways. It's clear that everything is now setting up towards Jimmy and Jey versus Roman and Solo in a tag team match. And for the first time in forever, it may be a Bloodline match that doesn't consist of outside interference since all members will be in the match and will be standing in separate corners. Another fan theory that's going around is if Roman Reigns will find either more family members or other WWE superstars that are loyal to him to come and try and replace the Usos within the Bloodline. Obviously, the replacements will be nowhere near the level of the Usos, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Roman Reigns needs more than just Solo Sikoa by his side. He needs that numbers advantage. So him trying to replace the Usos could be a route to go in, but ultimately that plan will fail because whoever he finds to replace the Usos won't fill those shoes. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.